So as the kids started coming to our house and we were feeding them and getting to know them, the ones from the orphanage next door, and this is kind of the way it seems to work with us. I don't go looking for stuff, but as it comes my way, I try to deal with it, and I don't just ignore it. And this is what happened. The kids came to us, and I knew enough about orphan care at this point that most of the kids in orphan care actually have parents. And I'm going to talk about that a lot more tomorrow, what we've seen and what other people have experienced and how to process that and what we should do about it. But so I was asking them, they come to the house. You have a mom and dad? Yeah, we have a mom and dad. Do you have their phone number? Yeah, we have their phone number. We talk to them, on a regular basis. And there were signs of neglect, for sure, in the beginning. And then there were clear signs of abuse. And I had started trying to figure out what we were going to do, who to report to with the neglect. But when the abuse became apparent, I knew that we had to reach out. And the grace of God, one of the guys in our discipleship group knew a guy who was on the police force, and I went to this guy, and it just so happens, I'd never heard of BPM before, the Bureau of Protection of Minors, but it just so happened that the guy that I was brought to happened to be on a special police force just to deal with cases of abuse of children. I talked to this guy, and I told him what was going on, and he said, I'm going to check into it. And also, at the same time, this orphanage has a website. It's ran by Haitians that live in America, and they have a website, and they had a lot of information on there. But they also had our efforts are praised by Samaritan's Purse, and I thought, okay, well, let's see if that's true. So I got in contact with the local Samaritan's Purse person on the ground, and this lady said, no, we have no clue who this is. And they checked all throughout their organization. No, we don't know anything about this. And we don't want our name on the website. And so they started making an effort to get their name removed. But in the meantime, they offered us some advice and some help and guidance in how to approach this situation. And I'm going to talk about this a lot more at the last session tomorrow. How do we help when people come to us? How do we triage the people that come to us? And so I'll talk about that a lot more tomorrow. But we had an idea of how we were supposed to do that. And one day one of the children came to our house, and he staggered to the house. He had a distended belly, and he had these massive lesions on his legs, and so I knew that if he didn't get some medical attention, he could die. And I went to the orphanage. I told him, I said, hey, come with me. We're going to go ask the orphanage, the people that are running the place, if we can take you to the hospital because you're in bad shape. And he didn't want to. He said, no, if I go there with you, they're going to beat me. And so I said, well, look, you can go where you want, but I'm going to ask them because I want you to go to the hospital. And so I was able to get permission. I brought him to the hospital, and it was we documented everything. We shot video footage of the whole thing, and it was probably the thing that helped us the most in the end. But I kept all of the documentation from him going to the hospital, and we had video footage from that. And I was so mad. I was just, how can this continue to happen? And I've told this story. Most of you have heard it, but I'll tell it again. When I came back from the hospital the first time, I was so mad. And that night I was just walking around on my roof and praying, God to burn this place to the ground. It was so awful and wretched. And what they were doing to kids was wicked. And it was all for money. And I said, burn this place down. And the next day when I went to pick up the kid and bring him to the hospital, the director's house in the middle of the night somehow had caught on fire, and nobody knows or nobody will confess to how it happened. And they were all just looking at me, as I'm walking this kid out of the gate, and I just walk him out, and there's this billowing flames and smoke behind me. And everybody knew, it was the judgment of God. That's what, jugement bon Dieu. While we were there was a lot of political unrest. There was a lot of, shortly after we moved into that house, elections happened, and there was just constant. We had to have enough supplies on hand for at least a month, is what I normally kept for gas we just had a little Honda 2K generator, thanks to Mr. Bruce and Miss BJ. I know. So that was our power source. We had enough gas for that, and we had enough food on hand for at least a month. And one time we actually spent 3 weeks without being able to leave the house because there were roadblocks right in front of our house, and there were shootouts, and people would run past our house, and the police would chase them. It was all politically driven, but it was intense. At night, from our house, most of the time we could hear at least one voodoo ceremony happening, and at other times we could hear multiple voodoo ceremonies during the hot time, like the festival, the times of voodoo festivals. They would use amplification, and it would be so loud, and couldn't even really talk to each other inside the house because of the loud amplification of the voodoo drums and the chants and everything happening. One night, there's this group, they call it Ban Sans Poil, and not everybody's seen them, not even the Haitians. Some of them think it's just a mystery, but I've seen them twice. I've been right up and close and personal with them once. But it's this group, and there's a guy with like a hat, and he carries a machete, but they play these instruments, and the best way I can describe it is something out of like Dr. Seuss. They have these weirdo instruments, and they make these weird sounds, and it reminds me of something out of Dr. Seuss, like you would hear on a Dr. Seuss movie, or how they have the weird Dr. Seuss instruments. And anyway, that's the best way I can describe it. But some of them are horns, but some of them are bamboo, and they make womp, womp, womp. They make funny sounds. But anyway, one night, they were just all around our house, and they started right after dark, and I could hear them going up and down and up and down. And so I sat on the floor underneath the window so I could hear them, and I had my machete in my hand and just sat there and prayed all night long, and they didn't go away the whole night. And so there was a lot of voodoo services. There was at the orphanage next door, there was a church in the middle of the orphanage, and right next door to the orphanage was a voodoo temple, and there was a gate that you could walk right into there. And the only thing that the kids admitted to when I would talk to them and ask them what was going on is they would tell me that sometimes they had to go and get water to clean up after the blood sacrifices. But it was unrelenting. So finally after a couple of years of the Haitian style of worship, and I'll talk a lot more tomorrow, but the Haitian worship was starting to get to us. It was difficult. We had all of this going on, and we should be able to see rest and relaxation, or just to be able to be built up when we go into the church. And even though I was preaching on Sunday evenings, it was very difficult to be fed spiritually in the environment that is created, especially once we learned what they were actually saying, once we could speak Creole. But the services are very wild. They're very loud. They overwhelm the senses. You might have like a barn-style building with dirt floors, but they're going to have amplification, and it's going to be so loud, and it's going to vibrate, and the pastors will scream into the microphones, and the music is loud, and the music will go on for usually about an hour, just loud chant-like music, and so it was weighing on us. It was contributing to our problems there, and during the heaviest part of the political unrest, it was recommended that we get out of there, and so we evacuated for a short time, and a lot of you remember that. And debated telling this to you because it's just hard and it's crazy. Right before we left Haiti, we evacuated out of Haiti. One of the things that I learned is that, and this is controversial too, there's a lot of theology that's like, whoa, that's going to be shaken by this, but the Haitians see the demons manifested in the trees. And I know in Myanmar, in Thailand, you deal with some of the animism, but there they say, no, they're really manifest. I never saw it with my own eyes. I didn't go to any of the ceremonies or anything. I just took their word for it. But they say they're manifest, and they actually live and dwell in the trees and other inanimate objects and other living objects too, other than humans. But they're worshipped there. And when you walk past the trees, you'll see the trees that they're worshipped. But there was one, and I was just so mad one day. I had been sharing the gospel with a voodoo priest. And the two guys that were with me, the two Haitians, they were telling me, they showed me where the voodoo ceremonies gathered around this tree, and the head demon for all of our whole area was worshipped there. And I was just so mad. I said, let's get around this tree and let's pray. And so I gathered around the tree, and we were praying, and I had some water in my hand, and I had my water bottle with me. And I just prayed for God to bless the water. I said, God, bless this water, and may it act as cleansing for this whole area. And I took the water and I prayed, and I just threw it all over the tree. I said, God, please use this water as a symbol of cleansing, that cleansing can happen here. And when we came back home from that time of political unrest, and we came here, and I can't share the whole story. I just can't do it. But there was a very specific incident that happened that let me know that we did more than just sprinkle water on a tree that day and pray around it. That we had done something to really make Satan mad. And there's a very specific incident that happened to let us know that we had really angered Satan by doing what we did. And we came back home to a spiritual battle that was harder than the spiritual battle that we had left in Haiti. When we got back to Haiti after that short time of rest, and we entered into, there were riots that happened. As soon as we hit the ground, our driver said, we may not be able to make it to your house tonight because they were just rioting there this morning. And we called one of the missions that was on the way, and they told us, well, if they're rioting, you can stay here. And but we were able to make it back. But it was just, we left under violence, came back under violence, and didn't have much of a reprieve while we were back here in the U.S. And when we went back there, I found out that an investigation had taken place into the orphanage, but they didn't do anything about it. And our friend at Samaritan's Purse recommended, she said, hey, I can get you into contact with a journalist, and they can put you on international radio and television, and you can go on there and tell your story. It's probably the best way that you're going to help move this forward. And we prayed about it. We discussed it as a family. The journalist told me I could be anonymous, but I thought, if I'm going to do this, because I'm a glutton for punishment, right? If I'm going to do this, I'm just gonna do it. I'm not going to be anonymous. And so I went and I told what was going on. It was Radio Caraïbe, and they broadcast it all throughout the Caribbean, and sometimes, I guess there's a place in France where they broadcast it. But yeah, things really got moving after they broadcast the interview. Everybody came to me and they told me, it's a good thing that you did what you did. She needs to, that orphanage needs to be shut down. It's horrible. I'm so glad that you did what you did, but they're probably going to kill you. And so we didn't, probably about 2 days after the interview aired, I've got my second subpoena, my summons to go to court, Haitian court, and it didn't say anything on it, but ultimately it was defamation is what they were claiming. And you guys were praying for me, and I appreciate it, and God protected us through it, and He used that to push things forward. And eventually, help. It was a stepping stone. It wasn't the final thing because it had to continue, of course. There was one child at the orphanage that was a true orphan, and he would come to our house, and he came from day one, and came just about every day. And his name was Albertson, and I had the privilege to lead him to Christ one day when he was at my house. But during the time of the court hearing, he came to our house one day, and right when I got back from court, he came that day, and his tooth was broken. And I said, "Albertson, how'd your tooth get broken?" He said, "Oh, I slipped." And he never would admit to anything else, but it happened right at the same time that I was going to court. Well, his tooth eventually got abscessed, and it became really bad, and he would come to our house and get food. And when the other kids that came to our house, when they would come to our house, we would allow them to call their parents. Say, "Call your parents and tell them what's going on." And they would call their parents, and they would tell them what was happening. And especially after the interview happened on the radio, most of the kids that had parents, their parents started to come get them. And they started to take them out of the orphanage. But Albertson didn't have any parents, so he was left there. And I knew that I couldn't take him to the hospital because now the situation was really bad between us and the orphanage. I couldn't take him like I took the other kid. And so I was praying about it. And there was a guy in the town who has a position of authority. They call them sheriffs, but I don't know. It's called Kazek. And it's kind of like a sheriff or a police officer, but not a real police officer, administrative, this crazy Haitian thing. But there's this guy, and most of the people in the town are afraid of him. They say he's a bad guy, and maybe he is. But for some reason, God gave me favor with this guy, and every time I saw him, I prayed for him the whole time I was there, and I would tell him, "I'm praying for you." And he'd say, "You praying for me?" He would ask me if I was praying for him. But I saw him one night, and I said, "Hey," I told him what was going on with the orphanage, and I told him about Albertson. I said, "I need some help." And he said, "I can get you some help." He said, so he called me the next day, and he got me an appointment to see the magistrate, the mayor of the town. It's the same position that we would have as mayor. I talked to the mayor, and the mayor was straightforward. He just wrote down what I was saying. He said, "I'll check into it." And it was after that the orphanage finally, all the kids were removed. I won't say it was shut down because it's still there, but there's no kids there anymore. So the same guy that I talked to, his name was T. Nene, or the Kazakh. But T. Nene called me one day and he said, "Hey, it's happening today. They're removing all of the kids today." And I'm trying to get all the details in order because all of this kind of happened at once. But 7 of the children were removed by the local government authorities, and they were placed in an orphanage called Hope Rising, a good orphanage in Leogan, about 45 minutes away from us. And the lady and husband, but the lady put out on Facebook that night, that's the director of that orphanage, good American-ran orphanage. She said, "Hey, 7 kids just got dropped off here." She just put this out on our Facebook group, for the Haiti Facebook group. Said, 7 kids just got dropped off here tonight by the Haitian authorities. No paperwork. We don't know what their names are. We don't know where they came from. They just dropped them off here. Anybody got any clue on what's going on?" And so we sent her a private message and said, "Hey, I think we know where they came from." We went the next day and we built a good relationship with this orphanage, and they're committed to reunification. They're a good place, and so we spent a lot of time there over our remaining time in Haiti. Yeah, and all 7 of the kids now, have been either reunified. Okay, so 5 of them have been reunified and are actually living with their parents now. And then 2 of them, their mother has been found, and they're in contact with her. So they're working through the process of reunification with the last 2. But so it was difficult to know what to do. We were all pretty much emotionally shot by this time. It was pretty bad. And we came to a place where we knew that we couldn't continue in the Haitian church that we were a part of because it was killing our family. And I really prayed about potentially planning churches. Our discipleship group at this time was about 9 members, and they all said that, yeah, we want to go with you, we want to be a part of church planning with you. But as soon as I moved into that, all of them bailed on me for one reason or another. I mean, some of them, one of them I had to say, no, I can't be a part of your discipleship anymore. But all of them bailed for one reason or another. I ended up going into the mountains to continue to try to pursue that with some other guys that started out interested, and then when I actually started going into the mountains, they bailed on me too. But I started a Bible study at a guy's house that actually received us very well in the mountains. But after 2 Bible studies, and they never even asked us for anything. They were really nice, and they listened and participated in the Bible study. But we went twice. The second time when we went back, they were like, "Okay, here's the deal. Yeah, it was probably about an hour walk to a church from where they were." They said, "Yeah, it's about an hour to walk, but we're Haitians. If we really wanted to go to church, we would walk there. We appreciate what you've told us. We believe you, but we're happy with our sin." And the guy said, "I love the ladies." He said, "I love to drink." And so he said, "We don't really want a church here. If we want to go to church, we'll go somewhere else." So I was like, "Okay, God, I guess you're closing the door here." I'll take the hint. So we decided not to do that. And when we did that, we got connected with, and we mainly went there for the health of our family, but out of Respire Mission in Léogâne, in Gracier, which is right next to Léogâne. A church group was starting of English-speaking, mostly Americans. It was a handful of Haitians there too, but the services were in English, and they weren't translated. And so all of us that were in the church, the Americans that were there, and even some Canadians, we were all there for the same reason. We were all dying spiritually. We were getting burned out, and we needed each other to be able to build each other up and to continue to grow and then be sent back out to do what we were doing. And so we got connected with them, and we stayed with them for the rest of our time there. In October, Hurricane Matthew happened. Hurricane Matthew was probably one of the biggest, straw that broke the camel's back. I don't know the right word, the right way to put it, but the final thing that said, okay, it's probably time to leave Haiti. We were there, and I thought, okay, we're on the ground here in the midst of this hurricane, and God's going to use us in the midst of this. And we went and we stayed with some friends in their mission that was up on the mountain because our area was prone to flooding. And after the hurricane passed, we came down from the mountain, and all the roads there was trees, there was the roads washed out, and so we didn't want to drive right away. We couldn't drive from where we were. We just left our truck where it was because the road was washed out. But what I saw was, with American missions, people that I knew personally putting out false information on the internet. Information, some of it was not even Haiti. It was other places or other events, saying that the bridges were washed out. And I walked across the bridges that morning and took pictures of them and posted on Facebook and said, no, the bridges are still there. And in our area, there was no need for relief. In my final session tomorrow, I'm going to talk about the difference between relief, rehabilitation, and development, and how to implement each one of those a little bit. how to distinguish between those two and the type of aid to bring to a situation. Our area was not in need of that, but people were putting out that we were, that all of this false information, and I was just like, I know these people. Why are they lying? I mean, and so I know that you guys were struggling. You wanted to help. National Hills, we had other churches reaching out to us. They're like, we want to give aid. We want to help. And so I'm like, I can't even process what's happening right now. So look, you guys, the only thing I could tell you to do was give to Samaritan's Purse, because I knew that they were going to go to the hardest hit areas and give relief in the right way. And they did. And some people were mad because they're like, well, they're only giving out tarps and water bottles and maybe some food in places. And I'm like, well, that's actually relief. You know, that's what they're supposed to be doing. So, but anyway, it was hard. I took about 2 days and I pulled back from my community all the way. Well, let me back up a little bit. On the walk, it was about 4 miles from where we were staying to our house. And I didn't even know if my house was still there. The report that I had gotten from a Haitian was that our whole area was flooded. Our house was gone. The church was gone. Like, it was all just lies, and I don't even know why. And so I'm walking down. We're dealing with all the emotions of it and the stress of, Hurricane Matthew was the slowest hurricane. It was just like, took forever to come and just sat on top of us for days, and it seemed like it was never going to go away. And we walked down the mountain, and as soon as I walked down the mountain, I'm on foot. I live here, you know, and the first thing that happens when I start getting to houses is people walk out into the street and say, hey, white dude, give us some money. Look, my house is destroyed. And I'm looking at the guy's house, and I'm like, man, I just saw your house yesterday. It looked the same. You know, like, oh, you know, you need to help us. And it was just constant, one thing after the other, people coming out and demanding, standing in front of us and demanding that we give them stuff. And I talked to one guy, and I said, man, I live here. I said, I don't even know if my house is still there. I'm walking to go find out. And he said, well, you're a white dude. You can get another one. You know, he said, how much money do you have in your pocket right now? Like, man, I'm not giving you any money. And it was awful. And so it was just the constant, it was a hard experience to go through. I didn't know what to do with it. I was really, really angry. And we had just been through everything that we had been through. And I went and I spent about 2 days at my house just cleaning up my yard, because I'm like, I don't even know what to do with all of this. We just stayed in our house. I prayed. I talked to Kevin about it. I talked to Morgan and Eddie. And it took me a couple of days because I didn't know what to do with it. And so we finally realized that we needed some help. We needed to work through what we had been through. We reached out, and through Focus on the Family and the North American Mission Board, we got some counseling. And through that counseling, they recommended that, they said they wanted to encourage me to continue in full-time ministry. They said, but we want you to consider or reconsider your geographic calling. And we think that it's time for you to get your family out of Haiti. And so we began making the decision at that point to get our family out of Haiti. And while we were there, we continued to work with Hope Rising. It was actually really good. It was a good thing. The Hope Rising staff was sad when we were going to leave. We connected with them in a good way, and we continued to minister to the kids that were there, and it was effective, and they liked what we were doing, and they said, we would like for you guys to come and continue doing this with the kids here. But we knew it was time to get our family out of there. So we came back to the U.S., and I thought 6 weeks was probably going to be a good amount of time. I didn't plan any speaking engagements I thought 6 weeks, man, that's, we're not going to do anything for 6 weeks. We're going to come back and we're going to heal. And then our whole family just kind of melted down after we got back. I wasn't prepared to deal with that. And I wasn't thinking that was going to happen. A lot of it, too, I was just pushing through. I wasn't dealing with my own stuff. And so we came back and we finally all melted down together. And we got some really good counseling. And and now we're starting to heal. So now it's been, since we got back in April, and we're starting to heal now. I'm starting to think clearly. I mean, a lot of it, we just needed to eat and sleep. So that actually helped a lot. And I didn't realize how much we needed to do those things, and get somewhere that was safe, where we weren't constantly worried about our security and somebody coming to kill us in the night, and a place where we didn't have to worry about getting out onto the road every day and getting stuck in a riot, or so now we're starting to heal. We're starting to get along. We're starting to work together instead of against each other. High five. But realizing that this is not the end of what we're doing, but the beginning. And so now, talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, but Amy and I are, through recommendations, have now decided, since God keeps bringing us traumatized kids to try to help, we're going to go ahead and get some training in that area, some specific training, and be more prepared as God continues to bring that our way. And in the meantime, we're going to go and we're going to share this story, and I'm going to continue to produce discipleship material so that we can continue to build up the church. So I'll continue to share the gospel and continue to produce discipleship material while Amy and I are getting some more training to be more prepared. So let me pray for us.